The black sedan rolled to a stop outside a rundown apartment complex, a place the Millionaire CEO hadn't seen since his childhood. He stepped inside the car, loosened his tie, and prepared for silence after a long, exhausting day. But then, from the back seat, a tiny voice broke the quiet. A little black girl, no older than 7, looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Shut up." He froze. No one had spoken to him like that in decades. What she said next, and why, would change everything he thought he knew about success, race, and the cost of silence. His name was Thomas Reed, CEO of one of the country's fastest-growing tech companies, a self-made millionaire who built his empire from a single laptop in a rented room. To the world, Thomas was the picture of success. Immaculate suits, charity galas, motivational talks about hard work and perseverance. Yet beneath the polish, he carried a quiet distance from the life he'd left behind, the one on the other side of the city, where cracked sidewalks and fading murals told stories he no longer wanted to remember. That evening, after a high-profile meeting downtown, his assistant had scheduled a surprise community visit, an outreach program his company sponsored but that he rarely attended. His driver was sick, so a temporary replacement was sent, a soft-spoken woman named Mariah, who brought along her young daughter because she couldn't find childcare. Thomas didn't notice at first. He just wanted the ride to end, his phone to stop buzzing, and the world to stay quiet. But as the car crawled through neighborhoods he once called home, Thomas felt a strange discomfort settle in his chest. The murals had changed. The corner stores were gone. People walked faster now, eyes avoiding the darkened windows. He glanced at the little girl in the back seat, her hair in small braids, her wide eyes studying him with a mixture of curiosity and something sharper. He didn't know her name yet. Didn't care to. But the way she stared, unblinking, felt like she saw through him, through the tailored suit, the expensive watch, and straight into the boy who used to dream beneath the same crumbling streetlights. As the car rolled deeper into the neighborhood, Thomas's unease grew. Every corner, every flickering streetlight carried memories he had buried beneath layers of success. The smell of street food, the distant sound of laughter from a cracked basketball court, all of it tugged at a version of himself he'd worked hard to erase. Mariah drove carefully, her eyes darting between the road and her daughter in the rearview mirror. The little girl sat upright, holding an old, tattered backpack against her chest. Every few seconds, she'd glance at Thomas, as if studying him. It wasn't a child's curiosity. It was something sharper, heavier, as though she knew more than she should. Thomas tried to distract himself with his phone. Emails, reports, schedules, all reminders of the world he controlled. Yet the familiar comfort of his digital empire felt distant here, as though none of it mattered. When the car hit a pothole, his phone slipped from his hand and landed near the little girl's feet. She picked it up, hesitated, then handed it back silently. Her small fingers brushed against his, and for a moment he felt the faint tremor of cold, like the chill of recognition. The silence stretched, thick and uneasy, until the car stopped at a red light. Thomas glanced out the window and saw a group of children running down the sidewalk, their laughter echoing through the night. A police car slowed nearby, its lights flashing briefly. The children scattered instantly. Something about that reaction, the fear, the speed of it, hit him harder than he expected. Mariah exhaled. "They do that every time," she murmured softly, more to herself than to him. "Even when they've done nothing wrong." Thomas looked at her reflection in the glass, unsure how to respond. His throat tightened. He remembered being one of those kids once, before he learned to blend in, before he traded his anger for ambition. Minutes later, they stopped outside a community center his company had funded. The building gleamed, modern and proud amidst the older homes. Thomas felt a flicker of pride, until he saw the faces of the people waiting outside. Tired parents, hungry children, and volunteers sorting through donated clothes. His logo was plastered across the banner above the door, bold and shining like a signature of salvation. But as he stepped out, the little girl's voice broke the illusion. "Why does your name get to be on it?" she asked quietly. if you don't come here?" Thomas froze. The question hung in the air, innocent yet devastating. He turned to face her, but she'd already looked away, her small hands clutching her mother's sleeve, her eyes fixed on the building that carried his name but not his presence. For the first time in years, Thomas felt something break loose inside him. A quiet guilt, raw and unfamiliar, began to stir. Inside the community center, the air smelled of cheap paint and exhaustion. Thomas walked through rows of donated supplies, people thanking him with forced smiles. Every "God bless you" felt like a blade twisting in his chest. He watched Mariah help unload boxes while her daughter wandered toward a faded photo display, images of families, protests, and faces lost to time. The little girl stopped at one photo and pointed. Thomas followed her gaze. His heart nearly stopped. In the photo, a younger version of himself stood among neighborhood kids, arm around a friend, Jamal, a boy who never made it out. Jamal had been killed by police at 16, unarmed, mistaken for someone else. Thomas hadn't been back since the funeral. He promised himself distance meant healing. The little girl turned to him, eyes fierce and wet. "Mama said you were friends," she whispered. "He was my uncle." Thomas felt the room tilt. The air thickened, memories crashing back, the sirens, the news reports, the silence he'd kept to protect his image. He had built an empire on resilience, but here stood the child of his silence, carrying the cost of his absence. And now, in her gaze, he saw the truth he'd run from. Success built on forgetting isn't success at all. Thomas stood motionless, the sounds of the center fading to a dull hum. The girl's words echoed in his chest like a verdict he could no longer ignore. For years, he had told himself his achievements honored where he came from, but now he saw the lie. He hadn't honored it. He had abandoned it. Quietly, he knelt beside the little girl, staring again at Jamal's photo. The boy who'd once shielded him from bullies. The boy whose name he hadn't spoken in decades. A tremor of shame coursed through him, but beneath it, something else. Resolve. That night, Thomas canceled his gala appearance. Instead, he stayed, listening to stories, shaking hands, writing checks without cameras watching. But more importantly, he began showing up. Week after week. No press, no speeches, just presence. Months later, a new plaque appeared beneath the community center sign. The old logo remained, but now it bore another line beneath it, in memory of Jamal Reed, because silence should never be a success. As Thomas watched children run past the building, laughter filling the air once more, he wondered how many others had built their dreams on forgotten names. And to anyone listening, his story whispered one question.